In the Dick Van Dyke episode, Mary Tyler Moore's neighbor, Millie, asks to borrow Mary's award winning clam dip recipe. Mary is reluctant to part with it. She does so, and Millie's dip turns out to be a big flop. Mary mistakenly left out one key ingredient. I was asked to help test recipes for the church cookbook once. I got a recipe from Mary Ann Berry for potato salad. Since I don't cook, I gave it to my mom to make it for me. We followed the recipe exactly, and it turned out bland and tasteless. When I reported back to Mary Ann, she said we needed to add salt to flavor, but it wasn't in the recipe. It was an important part of the recipe that she had left out. We're all in the pursuit of happiness. Eric Weinstein says that it's a scrambled message to keep us from figuring it all out. We're often working on a recipe that doesn't quite add up. All the while, we're missing the gratitude. They say if you don't value your time, you'll be taken advantage of. There's a hierarchy baked into culture, and someone is always marginalized. Christ spent his time trying to save the world. That was a waste of time from the perspective of the world. He was trying to save something that wasn't worth his time, but he did it anyway. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we talk about everything and nothing. This week, we talked about the Blackstone Rangers, the Pope, Puritanism, the sneaking suspicion that someone somewhere is having a good time, and the Congregational Church. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Isaiah. The Lord has opened my ears. Let my enemies confront me. And from James, you can say what you want, but often it's best not to do so. The gospel reading was from Mark. We can't be ashamed for offending the world because the world isn't all that into us. God is. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was from Randy Hollerith. Randy preached about Christian nationalism. We can't be for God and country. We need to pick one. The crime of Christian nationalism is that they have conflated the two. If a political party aligns with your faith, then you've probably already chosen which God you serve. If your party doesn't have a God, well, then you're probably a Democrat. Randy didn't actually say that, but I did. Randy said the cathedral was created to be a great church for national purposes. We're all for God and country, but not making a God out of our country, political party, candidate, or political agenda. We can't conflate one with the other. Aligning ourselves with others who hate the same people that we hate. It's not a construction of a faith community. It's about something else. When we set our sights on things not worthy of our time, someone is always going to get taken advantage of. Having our sights set on God, it's always worth our time. At St. James Cathedral, the sermon was by Christopher Griffin. Chris preached about tombstones and crosses. It was the Festival of the Cross at St. James. It's the only saint day that isn't a saint. Chris said there's a reference to St. Helena on Cross Sunday because she excavated the true cross and had it transported to Constantinople. Constantine tried to carry the cross himself and was only able to do so after humbling himself. Chris recalled encountering a young girl sightseeing in a graveyard one summer. She remarked, "Look at all the big plus signs." Chris wanted to correct the young girl, but there's a challenge in evangelizing. It's tricky business, especially in mixed company. Chris said some find the cross a symbol of violence. When you have to pick up your own cross in the middle of a crisis that never seems to end. Chris said never doesn't always last forever. Some people think of the cross when they think of Dracula. It's the symbol used to ward off evil. Even if you don't believe in God, it's there to be picked up and used for a purpose. Chris said the cross is a gift. Mother Teresa said the cross prayed for her. Martin Luther King preached the cross from the pulpit when he returned to Atlanta each Sunday. The cross is there to lift us up out of the depravity of our human condition. Chris ended his sermon by reminding us that at St. James is being lifted on the cross by a time and place that's asking a lot of them. They don't know how they're going to do it all. They need to find the missing ingredient to make it all add up. Chris ended his sermon by supposing that perhaps the cross is a giant plus sign after all. When I see people on the street darting here and there, it reminds me of the idea that it's all just an illusion, that the majority of people are alive and well and doing just fine, including myself, because we're not seeing the people who are not able to be there, not able to be out and about. We hear so much about democracy, but it really isn't fair. At a recent high school class career fair, the speaker said, if you spend your time on things that are not worth your while, you're going to be taken advantage of. Christ spent his time trying to save the world. And from the world's perspective, we can see that it wasn't worth his time, even from the perspective of the people he was trying to save. A key ingredient in all this is humility. We're all confronted by our enemies and feel compelled to stand up to evil. We can agree with our adversary. It's the best approach. At C.U. Buchanan's funeral, Linda Loving called it walking with each other. In modern mission work, the model has moved from showing up to fix things to simply being present. Agreeing with our adversary moves the narrative from the pursuit of happiness to gratitude. There's always a hierarchy baked into culture. Someone is always marginalized. We can step out of that and into the light. Agreeing with the adversary acknowledges the illusion that there's always another and an adversary. And it's the most important missing ingredient that starts with humility. The humility of letting God carry the cross for us. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hours every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom, I'll include my email in the description of this video. Be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.